time is here, let's gather round and travel in our minds so far and free to once upon a time, that's where things happen. Come along with me and see. Come on, everybody, gather round. Today's story is going to be about a monster with yellow eyes.
No.
It's going to be about a big grasshopper who had an orange nose, and he would go in the woods.
That would make a good story.
That's not it, though, huh?
But it's not it.
Rats. It's about a dragonfly with blue wings, and every night he would go, no.
No.
What?
Those would all make good stories, though, wouldn't they?
Today's story is about Cinderella. One of the smallest words in the world is the word if. I'll give you a piece of my candy if you give me a lick of your ice cream cone. Or I'll go for a walk with you if you go down the sliding board with me. If. Something happens if something else happens. Now, today's story is a very famous one, Cinderella. Now, Cinderella would have been a very happy girl if she'd have a bunch of mean stepsisters. She would not have been so tired all the time if her stepmother didn't make her clean the whole house all the time by herself. Of course, her stepsister just sort of laid around, had candy, and said, "Oh, Cinderella, you don't clean well enough, you don't cook well enough, you don't sew neatly enough." Brother, she really needed help. If only there was a way for Cinderella to be happy. If only there was somebody who could help her. Once, long, long ago, there lived a poor, sad girl named Cinderella. She was called that because she was usually covered with cinders and ashes from the fireplace where she cooked for her stepmother and her two stepsisters. She could not remember her real father and mother. They had both died so long ago. She did not even know her real name. She had been called Cinderella for so many years.
Cinderella! Cinderella!
Her stepsisters burst into the kitchen. Together they marched over to Cinderella. One was named Galena, and the other one Clamora. Galena was very thin with a long nose, and Clamora was very short and stout, and had practically no nose. Galena was holding a lace bonnet, which she shook in Cinderella's face.
I thought I told you to mend the strap on my bonnet. Now look, it's still broken. Now I cannot go out. You must fix it right away.
Yes, Galena. No sooner had she sat down to start sewing than her stepmother came into the kitchen.
Cinderella, you lazy child. It's 4:30. You've not even started our supper. We shall starve. You must make better use of your time.
The stepmother was interrupted by a knock at the door. She went to answer, and there stood one of the king's messengers with a very fancy envelope.
There is to be a royal ball to honor the young prince on his birthday. All the young ladies of the kingdom are invited.
Oh, how terribly exciting. Galena Clamora, you're going to a royal ball in honor of the prince at the palace. Think of that, my two darling daughters at the palace. Oh, goody, 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 goody.
Clamora rushed up.
Oh, goody, goody, goody. I shall need a whole new outfit. And me, too. I should like a satin gown with lots of feathers and a tiara for my beautiful hair. Isn't my hair beautiful, Mother? You know, you've always said I had beautiful hair, and I can remember one time.
Galena went on and on about her hair, while Clamora dreamed of what she would wear.
I think I look best in pink. Don't you, Mother? Yes, I think I shall wear pink. A pink hat, a pink velvet gown, pink pocketbook, pink shoes, pink shoelaces, pink handkerchief.
She went on and on about pink while the stepmother called,
Cinderella, come here this minute. Galena and Clamora will be going to a royal ball at the palace. I want them to look their prettiest. You just see to it that their dress is already in 2 weeks. Now get back to that kitchen.
For the next 2 weeks, Cinderella worked night and day. For now she had not only to cook and clean, but she had to cut and sew and trim and hem and crochet 5 laces. Her fingers ached from all the hard work. But finally the dresses were finished, as were the hats and gloves and capes and petticoats. She did not sleep at all. Galena and Clamora tried on their new outfits. Everything was perfect. Galena even had her tiara. But with all their beautiful clothes, they remained the same. Galena with her long nose, and Clamora with hardly a nose at all.
Aren't my daughters lovely, Cinderella? Yes, ma'am.
Oh, how Cinderella wished she were going to the ball. What a wonderful time her stepsisters were going to have. She returned to the kitchen stool by the fireplace and cried. The tears made streaks down her dusty cheeks, and finally she dozed off.
Wake, my child.
A warm, soft voice caused Cinderella to open her eyes. She was startled to see a dainty old person.
Who are you? I am your fairy godmother, Cinderella. Fairy godmother?
She looked more closely. The little old lady certainly was unusual. She had a tall, funny hat, and the antenna of a butterfly, and the wings of a large dragonfly. In her eye there was a twinkle, and in her voice the sound of distant laughter. Cinderella liked her.
I have come to you, Cinderella, so that you might go to the royal ball. But be quick, we've not much time. I need several things. What sort of things? Well, first I'll need a pumpkin. Do you have a pumpkin in the garden? Oh, yeah, I'm certain of that. Well, fetch me the pumpkin and bring me 6 mice and 1 large rat from the barn.
Cinderella rushed out and soon returned with a pumpkin and a box with 6 mice in it. She also had a trap which held a large gray rat. The godmother touched the pumpkin with her wand, and there stood a beautiful coach. The 6 mice became 6 white horses, and the rat became a proud coachman.
There, Cinderella. You can now go to the ball. But...
Cinderella looked down at her ragged dress.
I can't go like this. Oh, dear me, I hadn't even thought of that. Oh, of course. Well, you must have a dress.
The godmother looked around and spied a large moth fluttering about the lantern. She waved the wand, and the moth began to grow and grow larger and larger, and as it grew, it changed. Its soft, delicate wings wrapped around Cinderella in a gentle motion. It settled down lightly upon her shoulders. Then it flowed gradually to the floor. In an instant, Cinderella was fitted with a gown of pure magic. She was beautiful.
Now you are ready to attend the royal ball. You are as beautiful on the outside as you are on the inside. I am proud of you. Oh, thank you, fairy godmother. I have never been so excited in my life. Only remember one thing, Cinderella. The magic will not last forever. You must not stay too long at the ball. Leave before the strike of 12, or a terrible thing will happen. Promise me you will leave before 12. Oh, I promise.
Cinderella looked, and her fairy godmother had disappeared. At the ball, the great room was filled with whirling dancers and splendid music. Cinderella's sisters stood amazed. All Clamora could do was stare and say, "Goody, goody, goody, oh, goody, 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 goody." And Galena remained near a large mirror where she admired herself all evening. No one danced with them. Suddenly, the entire ballroom was silent. A breeze of the most delicate perfume had blown gently across the room. Everyone stopped dancing and looked towards the great door. There stood Cinderella. The prince, who had been talking with his father, excused himself and walked up to her. "May I say, I am stunned by your beauty? I did not know there was anyone so beautiful in my father's kingdom. Would you please honor me with a dance?" Cinderella gave the prince her hand, and they moved into the ballroom. The orchestra began an enchanting waltz, and slowly everyone resumed dancing. Couples twirled closer and closer to the prince to get a better look at the beautiful girl. All evening they danced, and not once did the prince leave Cinderella's side. He was charmed. "Oh, goody,
goody, goody, oh, goody, goody, goody. The prince is dancing with a beautiful girl. It's just probably that dress. She's probably as plain as an old shoe without that dress.
Suddenly, the great clock in the hall began chiming. Cinderella, who had forgotten all about time, looked at the clock. 12 o'clock. 12 o'clock! She uttered a small cry and dashed from the prince's arms. What was wrong? The prince ran after her. Please don't go. Please, please. I don't even know your name. But please, please come back. Cinderella could hear the great clock still chiming. 8, 9, at the door. 10, down the steps. 11. Her slipper fell off, but she still kept running. She reached the foot of the steps just as the clock struck 12. The prince looked out the great doors into the night. He saw nothing, except for one small, shining object on the steps. He went to the object and discovered the glass slipper. He picked it up and returned sadly and silently to the ball. Sometime later, the two stepsisters arrived home, tired and angry. No one had asked them to dance at the ball.
Cinderella, help us out of these dresses. We're so tired after dancing all night. Why, we didn't even have a chance to sit down all evening. You know the prince dances so divinely. Yes, I know. You know? How would you know, stupid? I mean, I've heard people say he dances quite beautifully.
Cinderella helped Galena and Clamor with their dresses and got them ready for bed. The next morning, Cinderella answered a loud knock at the door. There stood the king's messenger, and beside him stood the prince. Cinderella nearly fainted. What if the prince should recognize her? She wanted to run away at that very moment.
We are looking for a young lady, one whose dainty foot fits this glass slipper.
The messenger held up the slipper.
Are there any young ladies here who attended the ball last night?
Oh, yes, my mistresses went to the ball.
Would you ask them to come downstairs, please? It's very important. I must find the young lady who was wearing that slipper last night. But the stepsisters had already heard and were halfway down the stairs.
Oh, goody, 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 goody. Look, it's the prince. Look, Galena, it's the prince. Well, I do believe you have my slipper. Give it to me.
She didn't even sit down, but started to push her large foot into the tiny slipper. Not even her toes would fit in.
Oh, dear, I'm afraid my feet are swollen from all the dancing last night. I'm sure it will fit later on. Oh, goody, 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 I get to try.
Clamor grabbed the slipper from Galena and tried to shove it onto her short, fat foot.
I'm afraid my foot is also swollen from last night's dancing.
Cinderella timidly said,
May I try the slipper?
For a moment, no one spoke. They were all stunned that the dirty, ragged girl had asked such a thing.
You fool! You silly little kitchen maid! Do you think the prince would let you touch that slipper? Go to the kitchen at once.
No, no. It was the prince who spoke. Let her try the slipper. I must find its rightful owner no matter what. I must not leave anyone unnoticed. Cinderella took the slipper and gently placed it on her foot.
Your Majesty, I also have the other one.
And she took the other slipper from her pocket and put it on. You are the beautiful lady who danced with me last night.
Yes, I am. I'm sorry I ran away, but...
Cinderella didn't know how to explain. For once, Clamor did not say anything, and Galena fainted. Soon, Cinderella and the prince were married. They went to live at the palace, where Cinderella was a favorite with everyone. She made a beautiful princess, and when the clock struck 12 at the royal balls, she would laugh and go right on dancing. Story time is done, and so goodbye, until it's time to gather round again. It's kind of hard to wait,